I tried to end my cheating quietly, but my loving husband walked in on my last meeting with AP. He loved me like no one else ever had, so why did I destroy him? My name is Lauren Delgado. I had everything women say they want: a devoted husband, 4 amazing kids, and a man who still looked at me like I was magic, even after 20 years. His name was Marcus. He never missed a birthday. He kissed me every morning. He held my hand in public like we were still teenagers. He was my high school sweetheart, and he worshipped the ground I walked on. And I crushed him. I can't explain it in a way that makes sense. There wasn't some tragic fight, no neglect, no abuse. Marcus wasn't cold. He was warm, reliable, steady. But I wanted more. I wanted the fire, the attention, the thrill. So when a younger man at work started flirting, I didn't shut it down. I let it grow. I flirted back, and then I crossed the line so many women swear they never will. The worst part? Marcus didn't deserve a second of it. And every night in this silent, empty house, without my husband, without my kids, I remind myself, I betrayed a man who would have died for me, just to feel alive for 5 minutes. It wasn't love, it wasn't even good, so why did I ruin everything? If the affair had been magical, maybe I could have lied to myself longer. Maybe I could have convinced myself it was worth the wreckage. But it wasn't, not even close. The man I cheated with, let's call him Eric, was charming, sure. But the physical part? Mechanical. Forgettable. The kind of encounter you want to forget the second it's over. And yet I kept going back. Why? Because it was new. Because it was dangerous. Because in some twisted, selfish way, it made me feel wanted. Not loved, not seen, just wanted. Marcus, my husband, saw me, all of me, my soul, my scars. He kissed my stretch marks. He remembered how I liked my coffee. He never looked at another woman, even when I barely touched him for months. And I betrayed that man for someone who didn't even know my favorite song. Eric and I never said I love you. There was no emotion, just tension and lies and adrenaline. What Marcus and I had was real, warm, and worth everything. And I threw it away for a thrill that didn't last longer than the walk to my car. I wasn't running from my husband. I was running toward a ghost. The truth? Marcus never failed me. Our marriage wasn't broken. There were no screaming matches, no betrayal from his side, no unmet needs. So why did I stray? Because Eric reminded me of Tyler. Tyler was the boy who took my breath away at 18, the first boy who made my heart race for all the wrong reasons. Reckless, wild, magnetic in a way that made no sense. He broke my heart, and I thought I left that version of me behind. Until Eric smiled at me across the office like Tyler used to. And that old fire roared back to life. It wasn't Eric I wanted. It wasn't sex. It was the rush. That toxic, intoxicating sense of being wanted so badly it feels dangerous. I didn't see my husband when I kissed Eric. I saw the girl I used to be. Carefree, unattainable, desired. But that girl, she doesn't belong in a marriage. I wasn't escaping Marcus. I was chasing a version of myself that should have stayed buried in yearbooks and bad memories. And by the time I realized it, I'd already lit the match that burned down everything real in my life, was ending it, but he walked in before I could. I told myself it was over. That afternoon with Eric was supposed to be closure. One final conversation, a clean goodbye, and then I'd throw myself into saving my marriage. I even rehearsed what I'd say. This was a mistake. I love my husband. Don't ever contact me again. But that's not what happened. Eric brought the box of stuff I'd left at work. We stood in the guest room, and he looked at me like I still belonged to him. I should have walked away. I didn't. I hesitated, just long enough for temptation to creep in. The door burst open like thunder. Marcus stood there, silent, shaking. His eyes, those warm brown eyes that once only looked at me with adoration, were filled with tears and betrayal. And then he snapped. There was shouting, a crash, fists, blood. I screamed, I begged, but it was like watching a tornado rip through our home, and knowing I'd summoned it. My husband had come home early to surprise me with lunch and a weekend getaway. Instead, he found his wife in bed with another man. I wanted to end it that day. But instead, I ended everything. The police took him. My family took sides, and I was left with nothing. Blood on the floor, a shattered wall. The man I loved, my husband, on his knees, hands behind his head as officers swarmed our home. It felt like a movie, but I was the villain in every frame. Marcus had called the police on himself. He didn't run, didn't lie, he just broke. And now I was watching the man I betrayed get handcuffed in front of the house where we built our lives. At the hospital, I saw what I'd done play out in real time. My father wouldn't look at me. My brother screamed at me like I was a stranger. Marcus's mother spat in my face. His sisters, they looked at me like I'd killed someone, because in a way, I had. I'd murdered the man Marcus used to be. My kids, my babies, refused to speak. My sons turned their backs. My daughters looked right through me. And when I tried to explain, my brother told me to go to hell. I didn't just break a promise. I shattered a man. I fractured a family. And I stood in the center of the wreckage, a woman no one wanted to know anymore, not even the children I gave life to. I lost my husband, then my children, then myself. After the trial, silence swallowed me. Marcus was gone, sentenced, shackled, broken by what I had done. My sons moved in with his parents. My twin girls stopped calling me mom. My name became a curse. In our town, I wasn't Lauren anymore. I was her, the woman who cheated, who ruined a good man, who caused a good father to be locked behind bars. I was fired from my job before I could even return. My inbox flooded with hate. My reputation was radioactive. No firm wanted to touch me. I burned through savings, picking up hours as a retail cashier just to keep the lights on. I cried in the shower every night because it was the only place no one could hear me fall apart. My mother stood by me. My father didn't speak to me. My brother blocked my number. Even my lifelong friends slowly disappeared, one by one. Some out of judgment, others out of shame. At my lowest, I sat in the dark, wondering if anyone would miss me if I disappeared. I wanted to say sorry, to scream it, to fix what I broke. But there was no one left to listen, and no version of me left to fix. I wrote letters for 4 years. Every one came back unopened. I never stopped trying. I sent letters, dozens, then hundreds, poured my heart onto paper, begged for forgiveness, told Marcus I still loved him, that I would never stop loving him. But every envelope came back unopened. It's like tiny tombstones stamped "Return to Sender." I drove to the prison more times than I can count. Every time, I hoped his name would be on the visitor list. It never was. I'd sit in my car for hours, clutching the letters like they might shield me from the truth. He didn't want to see me. He couldn't. My kids visited him often. They came home lighter, smiling, like they were breathing again. But with me, silence. When I cooked dinner, they took their plates to their rooms. When I cried, they walked away. I missed birthdays, graduations, holidays. I missed them, not just the moments, but the versions of my children who used to hug me, tell me jokes, call me mom with warmth. And Marcus, the man who once sang to me in the kitchen, wouldn't even say my name. I was alive, but I was no longer part of their story. Just a ghost haunting the house I ruined with my own hands. I thought they were coming back to me, but they were coming back to him. For the first time in years, the house was full again. Laughter echoed in the hallway. The kitchen smelled like birthday cake. My girls were singing along to music while decorating for their senior year send-off. My sons joked around at the dinner table. For a moment, just a moment, I let myself believe we were healing. But it wasn't real. When I asked about their birthday plans, my daughters shifted uncomfortably. "We're doing something with Dad," one said softly. My breath caught. "Dad?" They looked at me like I should have known. "He got out in April. He's been staying with Uncle Leo." That sentence shattered whatever illusion I had left. The sleepovers, the sudden joy, the smiles. It wasn't about me. They weren't reconnecting because they forgave me. They were just using the house as a pit stop before going back to the only parent they still truly loved. I stood frozen as they continued their conversation. It was like watching a movie I didn't belong in anymore. One I used to star in, but now only watched from behind the glass. My kids didn't come home to find their mother. They came home because their father had finally escaped the prison I put him in. He looked me in the eye and handed back every letter I ever wrote. I showed up at my brother's house unannounced. I had to see him, Marcus. I couldn't keep wondering, what if? I clutched a bundle of old letters, the ones he never read, each sealed with my last fragments of hope. I rang the doorbell. It cracked open, just a sliver, enough to see his face. I hadn't seen him in 5 years. "Marcus," I whispered. He didn't speak. My brother tried to close the door, but Marcus stepped forward. He didn't smile, didn't cry, didn't rage. He handed me the letters, still unopened, and said, "You forgot these." My knees buckled. I reached for him, but he stepped back. "I just need 5 minutes, please," I begged, but he turned and walked away, back into the house. My children stood behind the glass watching me, and in their eyes, nothing. No warmth, no forgiveness, just the quiet, unspoken truth. I was tolerated, not loved, not wanted. That driveway felt colder than any cell he had ever been in. I didn't lose my family in one day. I lost them in slow motion. And the final blow wasn't the door shutting, it was the sound of no one asking me to come back in. I don't deserve them, but I still hope they heal. It's been nearly a decade since I destroyed my own life. My marriage is over. My children are adults now, strong, kind, and beautiful, but their smiles rarely include me. The house is quiet again, not from peace, from absence. I still dream about Marcus. Sometimes it's a memory, us dancing barefoot in the kitchen, him whispering, "You're my home." Other times it's a nightmare, his face twisted in pain as he stood in that doorway, watching me with someone else. I know he'll never come back. He's seeing someone now, someone who didn't break him. And I'm glad, truly, because he deserves peace. I've accepted that forgiveness may never come. From him, from my kids, maybe not even from myself. But I'm still here, working, breathing, trying to be better. Not for redemption, but for honesty, for my own soul. If you're reading this and you're standing at the edge like I once was, don't jump. Don't chase the thrill. Don't trade loyalty for ego or love for a spark, because sparks fade, but regret burns in silence, forever.